This is the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, published by the Easton Press. And this is actually the second copy of this book that I've had through my hands. The first was this chocolate brown, very glossy edition of this book, and it's actually the exact same edition. So you could say that this is sort of a variation, if that makes sense, of the brown covered version, and this is definitely the much, much rarer variation. Because if you look up this book, Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, you're going to find a whole lot of the brown chocolate covered books and very few, if any, of these reddish pink ones here. So I'm not going to have too deep of a look at it because I've already covered the exact same book. The contents are all exactly the same, but it does have a pretty neat binding, which I will have a look at, and quickly flip through the contents and all that. But other than that, it's mostly the same. So as you can see, it's bound in these, I don't know how to describe the color, cherry pink almost. This cherry pink leather, which is very nice. It's very soft and it has a nice grain. And I know that there's a word for it, maybe like chartreuse or something. I don't know if that's a pinkish color, but it's got a nice color. I really like it. It reminds me of Valentine's Day, and a lot of the other colors in this book remind me of Valentine's Day as well. But on the cover here, we have Benjamin Franklin's autograph, or at least his signature, embossed in gold. And then around that, we have these lovely gold motifs, patterns, which are, repeated multiple times across the cover. And it looks pretty nice, I have to say. I definitely like it much more than the brown version. On the spine, we have the same patterns with the title of the book. Then at the bottom, the Easton Press logo. Nothing new here, although it is a bit more faded than the covers, as you can see, right? This is closer to a red, but this is like a Valentine's candy heart pink almost due to the sun fading. And of course, the back cover is the same as the front, but without that signature in the middle. The page edges are all gilded, and it's quite a nice job, like Easton Press always does. Sorry for that camera shake. And then we do have these, which I forget in most of these videos, but we have the headbands, nothing too important, yellow and pink, tucked back there behind the spine. Moving on to the inside of the book. As you can see, we have this striking red silk moire ribbon marker here. And, like with the pink covers, it definitely reminds me of Valentine's Day. And then the end papers are this white, sort of ivory colored silk moire, and they, only contribute to the Valentine's Day theme. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for with this. I'm not too sure if that has anything to do with Benjamin Franklin's life. But it's an interesting color scheme, and I do like it. And we have this stain on the inside front cover. That's from where a name label was removed. So, ignore that. That's not, all editions aren't going to be like this. That's just because there was a name label in here. But, pretty nice looking end papers, pretty sturdy. This one's actually a very thick piece of cardboard. You can see how stiff it is. And then I thought this was interesting. We have the maps, the little overhead bird's eye view sketches of different places that Benjamin Franklin has been. So we have Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and London. And I don't know why exactly these are included. These are also in the chocolate brown edition. I'm pretty sure every single page in here is the exact same as the other edition, but they're pretty nice to look at. I do like that they included them. I'm just not sure why. Maybe they just wanted to fill up the fly leaves with some special little design. Who knows? But here we have the full title page with the frontispiece of Benjamin Franklin, and I gotta say this looks pretty nice. I like the colors and everything like that. So it's the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, now printed from the manuscript as Franklin wrote it, and including his preliminary outline with an introduction by Carl Van Doren. Then in the publishing information, printed in the USA, Mm-hmm. Nothing too interesting. This is a copy of the Heritage Press edition, as many of these Easton Press editions are. And 1976 is when this was published. So here we have the publisher's preface. Oh, and one thing about the publishing year, this was only a year after Easton Press was officially in business. They opened in 1975, so this is one of their very, very early publications. So maybe I don't have it anymore, and I'm too lazy to look at it, but the chocolate brown edition was probably a newer publication because I remember it had very smooth, glossy covers, which the newer books usually have. So that's probably why that one is more common, because it's a reprint almost, and this is the original edition, at least original edition by the Easton Press. So we have the publisher's preface here, we have the introduction, and I'm going to gloss over all of this because this is the same as in the brown edition. We have a description of the manuscript, and I believe that this is the, oh, nope, this is the preliminary outline that they talked about. And then here we go. We have the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin with a little illustration right there. I don't know if there will be much in terms of illustrations in here. Maybe these are just pulled from something else. These probably weren't made for this edition, unless I missed it. No, looks like these were just pulled from somewhere else and not drawn up for this edition. But they do look pretty nice. I like how they're scattered throughout the book. Once again, this is all the exact same as the brown leather edition, so you can watch my video on that one if you want a deeper look at the contents. But you know, we have a few portraits and stuff scattered throughout. And unlike the brown edition, one important difference is that these pages are not archival free. A lot of people mistakenly think that all Easton Press books have archival free paper, but the first, I would say maybe decade of the Easton Press did not use archival paper in their books. So if I take a piece of white paper, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Their paper it's yellowed a little bit, not as bad as some of the older books, but definitely a clear difference between this ivory white paper, or I guess pearly white, whatever, pure white paper, and then the yellowed pages. So just something to keep in mind if you like buying these old editions. Now, this edition does lay very nice and flat. The covers actually open so well, and they stay flat, only while you're quite a few pages into the book, though, which is a shame. And the pages themselves are pretty stiff, which is an issue among these Easton Press books, but they still are nice quality paper. In fact, you can't see any bleed through from the other pages that are behind the ones you're looking at, right? So it's still quality paper, even though it's not necessarily acid free, but it will, over time, over a very long time, it'll get brittle, get yellow, and it won't look as nice as when the book was first printed. But yeah, not going to spend too long inside the actual book. And of course, the book is sewn. You can see, well, maybe you can't see, but you can see the little needle holes there that were punctured through the signatures. And at the back of the book, those same beautiful pearly white end papers as we have at the front. That's all for this lovely Valentine's Day special edition of the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. It's definitely an interesting choice of colors, but I still think it looks pretty nice. And overall, this is a pretty good edition, but you're going to have a lot of trouble finding this one. Honestly, if I saw this for like $15, I would probably pick it up because they're so rare. They're not, the brown editions are super cheap. They're everywhere. They're like $15, maybe even $10, and you can get them in minty condition for a super low price anytime you want. This edition only turns up once every Blue Moon online. So if you see it and you're interested, you like the way it looks, it probably is worth picking up as long as it's at a reasonable price, because, just because it's rare does not mean that it's hyper valuable or anything. That's all for this edition. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you again in the future. Bye.